You can find out more about our group on any of these social media channels. We have a WordPress site that's hosted on WordPress.com, at www.santaclaritavalley.org. And what I'm trying to do there is you'll always be able to find out about meetups. I'm trying to plug in the history and like document a lot of the stuff that we've done, because we've done some pretty cool stuff since 2018. So I'm going to go back and try to get a lot of information up there. So it'll sort of be like a landing place. If you want to find out more about our group or get involved, as we, generally when we lead up to a WordCamp or something like that, a lot of information's there. We have a YouTube channel where the recordings of these meetups are going to be. So if you want to go back and reference something we talked about, or check into the history of, we have a lot of historical videos of some speakers that we've had in, or topics that are popular. So you want to check those out and subscribe if you can. Oops. All right. And this is a picture of the site in case you need that, as well as a link. And I'll share the link to the slides as well if you want to follow along. You can also find us if you're in the admin. You can see us there. If you don't have a location entered, you can put Santa Clarita and it'll show what's in our area as well. I love this tool. Like when I travel, I usually put it in, and I always joke that when I go to visit my in-laws, I type in New York, and if there's a meetup, I can sort of get out of the house and let my wife deal with the family for a little while. All right. And it's also a good way there's also news and information at the bottom of that. And I think it started a couple of versions back in Core, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. So that's a good place to find out about what's going on as well. We always start the meetup with the 5 good faith rules. This meetup follows those rules. It basically says it's a free, open exchange of ideas and topics and viewpoints, but we try to be courteous and not be jerks about it. There's so many smart and talented people in this community. We don't want to shout each other down. We want to share and learn together. So, all right, this is our agenda for today. We're going to talk a little bit of news and information, which I always love to do. There's so much interesting stuff going on in the community. And then we're going to get into the topic. The last few meetups have been what I've called lightning talks. Meetups can, when there's a lot of interaction and a lot of help going on, meetups can sort of run on. And I've tried to sort of, pare it down a little bit so we can focus on the topic and then open it up to the group. So it's going to be a little more abbreviated, but hopefully a little more concentrated. And there'll be some polls along the way and opportunities for people to jump in and share their experiences. Because again, as I'm learning, I'm putting up topics that impact me. Like right now, I'm in this track to try to get up to speed on blocks. And so I'm trying to learn all the things that are sort of adjacent to that topic as I go along, and I share it with the group. So I always welcome folks to jump in and share what they know about these topics, as well as, we'll talk about what you're working on. Here are some news and notes. On WP Tavern and around the community, the podcast circuit, I think a month or so ago, WordFence put out they have a bug bounty team, or a bug bounty reward system, where if you find a bug in any application based on what it is, you get money. And it's really interesting. I guess they found a really big one recently. I think the person got $3,000 for it, but it's a great program. So again, that link's in there. It talks about learn.wordpress.org. I have a link at the back of the slides on that. They've just revamped it, and it seems like they're trying to set it up similar to LinkedIn Learning, where there's like these learning paths that take you through learning WordPress, and visually it looks different. So you might want to check that out. And then also there's a few Gravatar links, as well as a link to WordCamp US, which is coming up very soon in Portland. And there's a link in the slide deck for that as well. And let me launch the first poll with this slide. All right. Does this look familiar to folks in the audience? And if so, who has migrated a site from another platform to WordPress is question 1. And then question 2 is, what plugins do you use when you're migrating websites? So if you don't mind, again, this screen is very familiar to those that have done it in the past, those of us that have done it in the past. And it's various ways where you can pull in information and start to build your site in WordPress. I generally use the WordPress importer plugin because I tend to go, I've been managing a network of WordPress sites at my current job for a while, and it usually goes from WordPress to WordPress, or we'll pull in something on an exterior site that a vendor does for us, and we'll pull it in to our network when we do a major redesign. Oops. All right. So let's get into the topic today, which is, what is WordPress data liberation? A lot of us that have worked in WordPress for a while have used a number of different tools, be it themes, plugins that actually add another layer to the admin, that creates a new admin inside of the admin. It uses a page builder that does the same thing, where like this screen right here is from one of my sites at my office. And this is a post. It's done using a page builder, Elementor. And when you're at the admin level, this is what you see. You don't see any content. You basically just see the title, and you have to click the button to jump into your page builder. What that tends to cause, and what data liberation is sort of addressing, is what if you want to move out of a page builder into something else? A lot of that information is in specialized widgets inside of that page builder that may not translate over simply. And again, this is the after. So when I click on the Elementor button, this is what's inside the page. And there's lots of content like this throughout the site. So if we wanted to move from Elementor to something else in WordPress, that could be problematic. And how many of us have also had to copy paste from the screen, try to pull in something from an exterior service like Wix. Like we had a vendor that was very familiar with Squarespace when we had her as a contractor. And we did one launch site. When we launch a new line like the Expo line or the regional connector, we spin up like what we call a vanity site or a boutique site that just talks about that event in the lead up to the launch. And she built it in Squarespace, but then once we had to pull it over, it was the worst thing, because those proprietary systems they want to keep your content and have it locked in. So the data liberation came along where they were like, it should be much easier. Oh, and here's another example. I'm on Facebook, not that much anymore. And during that time, I probably uploaded maybe 1,500 images over a long period of time. I'm sort of the family documentarian. And what if I wanted to grab those images back? My drives are all over the place, and I have images in a number of different places. What if I wanted to grab them from online? Facebook makes it impossible. You can't really export your content. So you really don't own your information. So they came up, there's tools that are already in place that are plugins, third-party plugins that do this, but they wanted to make it even easier. They wanted to make it like a one-click, a one-to-one, like what you see on the screen. Once you pull it in, it's what you get in the back end, and it's quick and easy. So that's why they started data liberation. And last year at the State of the Word, Matt talked about it, and they started a Slack channel, and they started work on it. And it's really going in a one-to-one, something that's really easy, like a click. And for those of us that have been around in WordPress for quite a while, the 5-minute install, I mean, I'm sure people are familiar with that. The 5-minute install sort of revolutionized WordPress and got a lot of people on board, where it was like it. And now most of the hosting companies have their own wizards that'll spin up a site in moments, but they want to come up with something similar to that, where you in one click, you can import your information and get going in WordPress, whether it's from WordPress to WordPress or from an external service to another. And so this is a page that's on .org, and it talks about the number of different areas that they're working on currently with this project. So if you wanted to go from Squarespace, they have basic instructions now on how to do it, but during this meetup, we're going to talk a little bit about the ways that they're going to implement it, so that you don't need a plugin to do it. You can just go into the admin, it'll be part of core, and do it there. All right. So again, they're trying to work on ways that'll pull in information from all these different areas into WordPress in a really simple click. These are some of the core initiatives that they're working on again, and you can click through and get more information, going from third-party plugins or third-party platforms to WordPress, from WordPress to WordPress. Again, in that case, it's sort of like going from a page builder to back to blocks, or going from blocks to somewhere else. And they wanted to make it as easy as possible. And again, those are the GitHub projects for each of those initiatives. Right. And again, it was first introduced in 2023, December's State of the Word. Again, they want it to be native, not a plugin requirement. It wants to improve the process of going from HTML to blocks, or how many of us have migrated information in using the import export feature, and some of your images don't come over right, or your short codes are wacky. A lot of that they want to really cover all of that in a tour format. So a lot of onboarding now, it gives you, when you install a program, there's maybe 3 screens that show you where things are, and they want to come up with a tour that'll go click, 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 and then like that, you're up and running. And it allows you to preview your information ahead of time before you go into production. Okay, so here are a couple of scenarios that, a lot of the listening or research I was doing for this topic. Here are a couple of scenarios that they're working on specifically. So say, for instance, you already have a WordPress site with a theme and plugins that you like, but you want to look at, if you're going from a page builder to something, a new block theme or something else, say you want to preview it. Instead of having to go through the current migration process, they want you to be able to quickly spin up a staging site in Playground. And you could also create blueprints, which will take all your plugins and your themes and quickly move it over, and you could just preview it quickly. I'm not sure how many folks use Playground. We're going to talk about that in our next meetup, but they're really trying to build in a lot of features. And for those that may not know, Playground is sort of like Local by WP Engine, or the previous, there were a couple of plugins that did it before, that allow you to preview your site in a staging environment. Playground allows you to spin up a WordPress site in your browser, test things out, and then also what's part of this as well is once you preview the theme, a new theme or new plugin in Playground, you say, hey, I like it, then you can send it over and go live with it as well. Even if you don't have a WordPress site. So say, for instance, what they hope is that if you're using Wix or Squarespace or something like that, or eventually like even Figma, if you're a user experience designer, they want to be able to pull in those sketches and turn it into a page. Because currently, like for instance, our management team, our executive leadership, they went with Karen Bass over to Paris for the Olympics, and they wanted to spin up a landing page that they could show to the transit officials in Paris. And our user experience designer spun up a landing page design, and it would have been great if I could have just clicked a button and pulled it into WordPress. So they're working on things like that, where if you don't have, if you're going from a third-party software, so even if in Wix or Squarespace, they're imagining you could grab a URL and paste it into and pull it in by just using the URL. So again, those are a couple of ways that they're trying to implement this, and it's currently in development. And again, it's on GitHub as well as a Slack channel where you can follow it. Here's a couple of more scenarios. You want to move content out of WordPress because again, what's really frustrating about a lot of social media platforms, like say for instance, you wanted to write a book and your posts are up on, you've been blogging about a topic that you'll eventually want to turn into a book. You want to take that information out of your WordPress blog and put it in somewhere else so you can start writing. They want to make that easy. What does a better export of WordPress look like? Again, when you migrate from place to place in WordPress, we just finished, and I showed in the last meetup, we were redesigning our news blog. And when we did the migration, the blocks from Classic Editor were an issue. We had to do conversion. A lot of the short code or embeds, because again, the site was over 12 years old. So a lot of the third-party plugin that we used to pull in the YouTube videos or used to pull in other media, those things were broken. We had to go back in and fix them manually. So they're imagining that these one clicks would make it as seamless as possible or try to minimize a lot of that. So that's some of the work that they're doing right now. Here are some learning resources in that area. Again, there's a couple of podcasts that I listen to. They're talking to like the point person for it. His name's Jordan Gilman down in Australia. And that the first link is a great listen to sort of get an overview of what they're planning as well. And on one of his posts on .org, they did sort of a scenario whereas, and this is sort of animation that sort of goes fast, but they start with a website, copy, and then just paste it into a page, and it pulls in that entire information, and then you could just quickly go ahead and restyle it and then publish it. So that's sort of their idea of what how this should work in all those scenarios that I talked about earlier. I'm going to open it up to questions and discussion now. Again, this is sort of a quick view of it, because again, for those of us that migrate consistently, there's some bugs that I described that sort of drive me crazy. But if they can sort of optimize this process and plug it into Playground, that'll be a pretty awesome thing. This again is a link to the learn.wordpress.org, where you can find out more about WordPress by taking, a number of different courses or pathways to teach you WordPress. And now I'm going to open the floor up to the group to get your thoughts again on the two questions. Tell me about what you're doing in terms of your migration or what you've done in the past. And then what plugins do you use? If you can go ahead and unmute and jump in, I appreciate it. Anyone?
I use Duplicator.
Okay. And do you have any bugs or
No,
issues
I just
with it?
use Duplicator forever. Then I still pay for the pro license, and I haven't really had to do it much. I mean, now if I develop, if I don't start with like a staging site on my server, I use local, and then with local, I still, Duplicator is still easier, but I've helped people do it with like all-in-one and all that stuff. But I personally, Duplicator has just been for like 10 years I've used Duplicator. So hard for me to like, and I don't really have problems with it, but it's been a long time, because typically what I do is I start on the server with a staging site and then move on,
Mm-hmm.
then go from there. So I let the host take care of it.
And do you feel like you do enough work where you have to use a migrator? And I'm sort of in the same boat as you. It's like you do it maybe once every 2 or 3 years, or
yes,
you don't really use it that often.
I used to do it way more, because I used to not have as good a host. And I mean, I use I use Duplicator very rarely. But my partner over in Thailand, he still uses it. So we pay for the license. We have it. We upgrade. We keep it. So I have it, and I can use it on like 5 sites or whatever it is. And of course, you take it off the site every time, once it's done. So we have plenty to do it on. And but I don't do it. I don't have to use it anymore. So
yeah, and you mentioned you use the premium version. Why do you use premium? And that's one of the things I guess a lot of folks in the plugin building community or in the theme building community are complaining that WordPress is sort of folding a lot of things that they used to be able to charge for into the core. What did you use the pro or premium version for?
I have to think back. It's been like I said, I've had the premium version for like 10 years or something. So I can't remember why, but there was something about one step kind of thing. It was like the free version wasn't as easy. So and then like 29, I bought like I have like WordFence on a site. It cost me $35 a year, because it was way before it went big time, and I have one, and I pay like $24 or something. It was because it was just starting or something, and I able to. So I don't know, but it was way easier. So I don't know what the free version offers anymore. I'm probably a bad person to ask. And Duplicator's so old that I don't really know why. I just
Yeah,
use it.
yeah, and Duplicator is one of the big ones, I guess, in terms of the top three in terms of downloads. It's number three.
Oh
But
well,
yeah,
I
so
mean, I've
it's
been
really
using it for
common.
a long
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it's sold out now. I bought it when it was just like, Joe and Ron. Now it's like, now it's huge. So I don't
Uh-huh,
really know like when it was Joe and Ron software, it was I don't know why. I just bought the premium.
Now
uh-huh.
you're grandfathered in, right?
Yeah,
There
yeah,
you go.
yeah. So
That's
it's
always the
been
best
great.
thing.
Yeah.
What about you, Ron? I know I think you've talked about it in the past at our meetup, migrating or
Well, I think it's a great topic, and everyone beginning or not beginning really kind of needs to know how to migrate their site around and back it up well, and it's really vital because those of us who can't afford high-end hosting often jump from host to host every 3 years or every year. So I've lately gone with what Sumner and other people have recommended, which is the all-in-one my what's it called?
yeah.
All-in-one backup and migration or something like that.
Yep, yep. That's
Yeah,
number two. Yeah,
that
that one's
one's
yeah, that
awesome. I've only
yeah.
experienced it once and I really liked it. And it's free, of course. I bought the WordPress Migrate DB a long time ago and the professional version. It was good, but I don't think I need to pay for it anymore because that other tool works. I also want to mention my early days, if anyone has used Importer, which is WordPress's own program, which you can always install instantly from within
The admin. Yeah,
admin. Yeah.
yeah.
When in the early days, I remember clicking, I would import all posts, I think it was, and I would click, bring images too. And it
I
brought
used
the
to hate
images
it
too,
drives me crazy.
except it didn't bring the images. Bringing, it was bringing links to the images, I believe. So the images were still back where they were, and all of your posts now pointed to the old place. And so that's going to break something like that. I may be wrong about that.
Oh,
That was
that's how definitely how it works.
it's a long time ago. But importer is still very, very valuable for just little
Grabbing your
jobs like,
content.
yeah, yep.
Cool. All right. Anyone else?
And I have a site too.
Oh, that's great.
All right. And I see there was some discussion in the chat between you and Shannon. Can you go back through Shannon? Can you jump in and share why
Oh,
you're so
yeah.
why are you so terrified?
HubSpot is terrifying. Getting the stuff out of HubSpot, apparently, like my project manager, Steve, or the owner of the agency that I white label for, he was like, see what you can figure out. Because oftentimes I have a different solution and it works, even though he's got 20 years experience on me, right? But it was terrifying. There was some tool that he found that we could export out of HubSpot. Then we had to like do some sort of conversion and then bring it in. And it was an enormous site. It was actually a multi-site installation.
Ooh,
And they had been putting all of their blogs on HubPost and they wanted them to be hosted. Let me see. This is one that I didn't have to sign an NDA for. So let me see if the site's still even up. But yeah, it's
So what'd you do? Did you copy each page like manually, or what'd you do?
no, like somehow he figured out how to export it out, but it was like super, let me put it this way. In 1990,
No, it was in the 90s. That was like before WordPress even
1998, I was working on Alias machines, doing textile design, and everything was in Unix.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And one wrong this or that, and you'd wipe out your whole database.
That's
It
right.
was like that.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I can show you guys the site.
Yeah, can you paste
what?
it? Can you paste a URL in the chat?
Yeah, let me just see. I will. They've got, it's a multi-site. It doesn't look like looks kind of like, a lot of times I'll go back and these things don't look at all the same. Oh, hey. Now, keep in mind, I don't design, I just build.
Mhm.
Looks pretty good. This is exactly what I designed. So where are
You
these
you
blocks?
did timeless work.
You would think.
Yeah, it
maybe.
worked out for her apparently.
Yeah, but this is interesting because it is a multi-site, and that switch from private wealth to this particular place that I white label at, they have a lot of hedge funds and financial companies and even some fintech stuff. So I'm looking, private wealth looks about the same. Again, I did not design this, and I really pushed back because I think like the team are in cards that are not
I don't know, that last page looked pretty good, but you took it down too fast for me to see. It looked
Oh,
pretty good.
actually, I
That's-
didn't know if the browser showed all the Zoom windows, so I was just moving it over so I could reshare. I
Oh,
apologize.
well, I can't see it anymore, but I saw it
Oh, I'm
before.
pulling it back up. Hold on. Yeah. Sorry, Shannon, go ahead.
Oh, I was just looking to see, it looks like they're not showing, let me see if their team. Yeah, this is like, it may not be. I haven't checked it to see if it's ups. Oh, as I make a mistake. I need to see. I pushed back on this because the way that they had it where it wasn't the team, it was not the way it was designed, it was not accessible. I can't remember what year we did this.
What challenge, again, just to recap, because I was sort of scrambling to put it up. What challenges did you have? You said you had to manually copy across from HubSpot, or
Yes,
why was
and there was
why,
like over 500 blog posts.
so for the non-initiated, and so HubSpot allows you to build pages and things like that?
Apparently they had something that please, I never even researched it because I'm like, why would somebody do that? Right.
Right.
But I assume that HubPost at some point sold them a product to do that.
Yeah,
right.
they had a post, they had a blog, a product. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yes.
Salesforce has everything, or
Yeah,
Microsoft
yeah,
has it.
yeah.
Bundled
And
together.
I'm sure that
I got a buddy that built a site on a fraternity brother of mine from 50 years ago or whatever, but he built his consulting business on HubSpot. And I mean, I actually looked at it, went back in, and it's all HubSpot stuff. And apparently it was real easy to fire up, in his words. So I don't know. I mean, I guess there's a way to build websites on there too. So who knows?
Yeah. So just to give some background, this was built using, oh goodness, why can't I remember the name of the theme? Uncode is the theme, and it uses WP Bakery. And we did not use the visual one because it has bugs. So, but I get a Figma file. I get a copy file that has all of the copy and tells me which pictures and whatnot. All I do is build it to spec, and the agency owner's really particular, and he pays me to like go back through, like it's like take another lap, look for everything, and I see patterns. So I can notice if there's a piece of like one little piece of punctuation in the wrong place, or I don't know. But one of the craziest jobs I did is there was I can't remember what it was, but there were 4,400 things I had to go fix. Yeah. And I'm like, cool.
It sounds like that's on your invoice when you're so detailed.
Yeah. And I get paid by the hour, and he just upcharges, which is fine because he's the one that I was looking for a mentorship, an internship when I got out of coding boot camp, and he hired me in the beginning, paid me $25 an hour. I don't get paid $25 an hour anymore, but literally, yeah.
Oh, that's
So,
cool. Wow.
but the trick is that you switch to private wealth. So it's this multi-site, and I can't remember, but I think there might be the same blogs available, but there's a chooser you know, there's we use WP facets
Mhm.
as our sorter. Do you see the do you see the switch up at the top in the banner on the left above the logo? That's a whole nother site.
Okay.
Yeah. With their own things. I've learned, oh, all those blogs that I had to like make sure were correct. I learned a lot about, you know, investing.
Yeah.
In private wealth, but
So I guess in connection to what we were talking about, like if they wanted to go from something in WP Bakery, which isn't, you know, I guess WP Bakery probably isn't as popular as it was in its heyday, over to something else, there's going to be the same kind of manual work flow that you're going to have. So hopefully, hopefully data liberation will sort of fix some of that stuff. And like you were mentioning, I tend to work from Figma to WordPress. So having a connection there that would just manually pull over the specs, because it just drives me crazy to have to copy paste or go in and look up the information on every single piece. It drives me crazy.
Or sometimes the images are in, but I've got Ipsum Lorem copy. So I go in and I export the images out of the Figma to bring them in. It just depends on what team. And this, I have to tell you, they probably paid almost $100,000 for this site.
Nice.
It was, yeah. So everything is like, I don't get paid to make decisions. I get paid to do exactly what's there.
So again, this
Yeah,
is an example of Figma. This is what we used when I was part of the lead team for WordCamp US. These were some of the pages that were laid out by the designer. And again, it would be awesome if instead of having to go in and click and get information about each individual element, that you could just click a button and it'll pull it over into WordPress.
I'd heard,
for you.
Joe, I'd heard Scuttlebutt that they're a long way from that. Maybe that's not correct.
Well, on the page, when you
Figma
go,
too.
when you click on the Figma 2, it's saying still in progress. So it seems like they're, you know,
Yeah,
it's,
just some people some of our colleagues have said that from what they can tell, it's a long ways off.
yeah.
But no.
Yeah. And again, like I said, for me, like I'm trying to transition into being at least more fluent in using blocks. So I want to make sure I know all the side things that are running at the same time. And when I looked and when I looked under a lot of the buttons, there were, I think, 2 or 3 that hadn't. And again, it's really dependent on the community. You know, all of us that have been around for a while, we know you tend to get a little negative when you have a bad experience, and a lot of people drop out. But you know, it's really based on people wanting to contribute. So if you know about Figma and you want to try to help solve it, they really need people that are familiar with that kind of stuff. So yeah, so maybe it's they haven't gotten to that point yet. And I don't know what the timeline is. Like when I've looked in the Slack channel, they have regular meetings, but again, it sounds like the guy down in Australia is like the main guy. Like for instance, on the accessibility team, it's like millions of contributors that are in there helping Joe out. So it just depends. And I know they always looking for more contributors. So, but that's, you know, if that one happens, I would die and go to heaven, because as a former designer, being able to do it once and then move it over would be really nice.
There is a way you can go from Figma to WordPress. It's pretty easy. That guy Reno from
Living with Pixels.
yeah, he's not living with Pixels anymore, but a couple of years ago he did a Figma to WordPress tutorial.
I thought it was for, I think it was for Elementor, right? I think he did one for Elementor. Yeah. So,
well, I mean, not that I'm a big Elementor fan anymore, but I mean, you know, I still have 100 sites or so, you know, over 100 sites on Elementor. So, I mean, like I know how to do it and it works. So,
yeah,
I don't know what the hassle is.
Yeah.
If you do it that way, but if you're not about Elementor.
Oh, I know. Well, I mean, you know, I still am, but you know, I want to get on with the blocks.
I'm in your boat. You know, I built so much on it. I can't really, you know, I can't just like stop, because I'm certainly not going to change all those sites over to, you know, bricks or something like that. So I don't really have a choice, you know, and I mean, and I've actually started to really get into Spectra with WordPress, because you can fire, like this is what I showed Shannon. You could fire up a site with ZipWP, and if you have the Pro ask for stuff, you can just like whoop, and here comes your website. It takes like 30 seconds, and then you can go that way, and it's all blocks, and
Yeah.
I don't know, it's pretty great. But so I mean, you know, but I don't really have to work with designers because my clients really don't. They don't have a design, so they pretty much have me do the design. So
Yeah.
again, I don't have to worry about like, oh, it needs to be 3 pixels over or something ridiculous like that, because they just take whatever I give them. So.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know. I'm the grumpy WordPress, but like when our UX person comes up with something ridiculous, I'm like, I'm just not going to do that.
Right. We're gonna keep it the way it is. It works just fine. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other point, because I sort of try to, over time, you eventually do a little bit of all the different approaches. And my approach, like Ron was saying, I hate if you use importer, exporter, like the whole image thing from the media library. Oh, that's a point of, it's a sore point for me.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll iron all this stuff out. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to try to, and when I do the playground topic, sort of demo some of the stuff, some of the features that playground has in it. So any other comments before we sort of open it up to what everybody's working on, or any questions or comments about WordPress or what you're working on lately? Anybody? Oh, by the way, Lynn and Larry, how did your meetup go? I apologize.
Well,
I couldn't make it. That was launch day for me at Metro, and I was sort of going nuts, and I missed it.
I think it went an hour over. It was fantastic. We had a great time.
Yeah, it was a great time, especially since people like Steve was there also to help us.
Nice.
We had a good time though.
Why-
We everybody showed up. Like Eagle was. I mean, we were all there, and we had a great time. And like in the chat, it was like, please let it go an hour long. Ron was trying to shuffle us along real hard, and I was like, man, we got the wrong guys in here, man. It's like everybody that was a talker, I mean, like you had like 7 or 8 hosts in the meeting, so it was like it was much longer than I think they wanted to go, but we got talking and we helped people. It was as a visitor, it was fantastic.
Everybody was there, Joe, except you, dude. Okay, everybody except you, dude. No, it went really well. We were very happy.
Oh no! See, now I got the guilt thing.
I'm just playing.
No. It was really no, but really, he's not kidding. Everybody was there. Like Sumner was there. She never shows up. She was there. I mean, I mean, Ron comes to all of them, so it's not like and he's part of the leadership team. But Sumner was there, Eagle was there, I was there, Eric was there. I mean, like everybody was there. We had it was a great time.
And
And we only scheduled for 1 hour, but it ended up going like 2.5 hours.
That's what I'm telling you. It ended up going
carried
like a
on, and everybody had a lot to
so.
contribute. It was
just
a
for the
really good
record,
first
Sumner
show.
is one of the organizers, is the founding organizer. So it's
Oh, that's why she was there.
she's still co-organizer, as am I. But it's Lynn and Larry's.
That makes sense. There you go.
It's Lynn and Larry's show.
Yeah, so it was fantastic. I mean, it was really like you'd be proud of them, Joe. They did great. They really did.
So Lynn and Larry, what was sort of the format of it? Did you do a topic, or did you have it just help, or what was your style?
Really more of an introductory. Here we are. We're going to do this. Here's some of the topics we want to talk about in the future. But then people had questions, and everybody jumped in with answers, and it ended up turning into a classic meetup. It was great.
Oh, good. Did you?
Yeah,
I guess the other
next time.
Oh, go ahead. I didn't hear you, Lynn. Say that again.
We're doing 2 hours at the end of this month. So.
Oh, wow. That's good. That's gonna be a late evening one. Nice.
Well, the other ones go 2.5 or 3 or 4 or 6 or 10 hours. So it's not like they're gonna miss. I mean, there's a meetup every Thursday. There's Eagles the first Thursday, I'm the second Thursday, Eagles the third Thursday, and then these guys are the fourth. So like it's unbelievable. And I mean, Thursday meetups go long. Eagle starts at 6, usually ends around 9 or 9:30. Mine starts at 7, usually ends around 10, or maybe 11, or maybe the next morning, depends on.
Maybe 3 in the morning.
Yeah, 3 in the morning, something, however long it takes. But the point is we've had great success on those Thursdays. And for them now, I mean, it's like it's gonna become like Southern California or the West Coast Help Thursday, you know, because it's just man, we have it every Thursday. It's good to tune in to our meetups on.
Thursday nights.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like there should be sort of like a Thursday at a word camp where all the meetups are there just doing like a big meetup.
that would be crazy, but of course, I mean, I might be prejudiced, probably am, because I know everybody. Well, we've met through Meetup for so long, but our meetups on the West seem to be better than the rest. I mean,
You know, there's actually, there's and I think the genesis of this version of Larry and Lynn's meetup was, I think WordPress was going through and trying to clean up a lot of the inactive meetups, or they were calling it like a reactivation to make sure, especially during the pandemic in the States, folks were like, I don't want to do virtual anymore. And a lot of the word camps went away because people really wanted to do them in person. But it seemed like on the West Coast, I know Alicia was like, I'm never going back to in person. So many
Right.
people prefer virtual versus in person. And it seemed like the West Coast group is sort of leading the way on that. I mean, I know I see meetups around the country, but it seems like they're always during the day, like 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock,
Well,
3
because for us, they are because they're in New York or Virginia or Florida or something. So if they start at 6, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, right? So I mean, for us, it's crazy like that. But I go to them. Like we go. I have like we go to. I go to like 20 or 20. I don't know, 20 maybe.
Oh, that's what I'm
30.
saying. And that's why you guys should, we need to do this in a WordCamp format, because you guys just travel to all of them. It's like
That's right.
it's like a traveling
Right.
roadshow. We should have a traveling roadshow at a WordCamp.
And we can tell you that I've been to that guy in Australia's meetup, his elementary meetup, and the damn regular
Yeah.
WordPress. And
Yeah,
there's always like, you're up at 1 a.m, to
Yeah.
go to that meetup, right?
Yeah.
And
I
it's
used
like,
to do the London meetup at 5 a.m. So
yeah.
yeah.
Well, we got Eric does that one. So like, Eric out of Texas. So like we go to a lot of them, and and in our West Coast meetups, we will sometimes say, so earlier today, I was over talking with, so-and-so in Connecticut, and they were talking about blah, right? So they lay it out, right? And we discuss it. So like we have enough people in the meetups that are active enough, going to enough other meetups, that we get the synopsis of the other meetups.
Mm-hmm.
And Larry and Lynn's meetup was fantastic again, because as Summer was saying, she wanted to be there because she was supportive of the group and all that. I mean, she was talking, and like, like when she talks, I tend to listen. So,
Yep.
She's a treasure.
Yeah,
for
she's
our
just
whole
one of them
community.
from the old timers, and and knows what's going on, and she has tons of experience. So when those kind of gems are there in the meetup, it's kind of like it's a new blood meetups. It just wasn't like, just wasn't me, Alicia, Eagle, Eric, like DK. It wasn't the same people just talking. It was like
There are a lot of
new.
newbies too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the newbies
Yeah.
were eager. I mean, they just happened to be the kind of newbie that you want because they were eager for help. I mean, and two of them shared their screens, which is, that's kind of
Even
brave
better.
if you,
Yeah.
And just to give a little plug for our next meetup, it's going to
Oh,
be
hey, that's
about
why I started this topic.
It's going to be
Okay.
mostly about alt text.
Uh-huh.
There's going to be a special guest, and Lynn is going to try to invite some people from one of her blind groups to come in and talk about, how it is for them when they're reading the alt text in their screen readers, so that we can all get a better idea of how to help them and make the websites better for them. So it should be a really good time. Make sure you're there, everybody.
Oh, nice.
Especially
Hey,
you, Joe. Especially you.
and Larry, I have one request that I hope happened, even though I missed it. Did you play the group out?
No, I didn't play any guitar. I was maybe next
Yeah.
time. We'll see.
Awesome.
Thanks, Joe.
Oh,
I think
good.
I think it went way longer than anybody expected, Joe. So I think they were kind of like, oh my gosh, like we totally blew it because we missed the time or anything. But then there were people like pleading in the chat, like, please let it go longer. Like
Mm,
it was
mm.
We
really
didn't want
kind
to
of
cut
cool.
anybody off who had
Yeah.
a question, I mean, we were scheduled for 1 hour, and we just figured we'll see what happens, but it just kept carrying over.
I
People had
started turning off lights and
people had questions.
I
and
put
it
the
turned
chairs
into,
upside
like, the
down on
real
the
thing.
tables. And
Ah,
I started sweeping up, and no one
Yeah,
got to,
no one got the hint. All right. Well, let me do.
nobody got the hint. We weren't ready to be done. No.
Well, let me do this as we sort of wrap this one up. I want to open the floor up to, I know, Rich, what were your thoughts on this meetup, or what are you looking to get from meetups that you attend, or any questions you have for the group, if you don't mind unmuting and jumping in.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So I've used, as far as this meetup goes, I've used Updraft and All-in-One.
Mhm.
And the free version of All-in-One. And the only issues that I had with it were like you'd have data limits, on size. So I had to go in there, and there was ways to figure that out to increase.
Yeah,
Like
it's
I
like
think the PHP INI files, something like that. It's been a while.
they give you
Increase.
enough good features, but
Yep.
they want to make you buy the premium version, which drives me crazy.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is I'm doing this more full time now. If that's the case and that's what I need to do, I'll pay
Mhm.
the money. Like, so be it. But I may check out Duplicator, Steve. Also WP Vivid. I started using that for backups, and I think that has a migration feature.
It does. It does. I use it.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think maybe that's what I'll get my head around. But yeah, if I got to pay at some point and it's needed to make things work, so be it.
What would make the process perfect, or how can they improve these migration tools, in your opinion?
I mean, I like, without that size limit, All-in-One is great.
Mhm.
Hit
You
a
didn't
button,
have to do a
download
lot
a
of
file. Yeah, fire
didn't
up
do
the
much
other
cleanup.
site. No, not really.
Mhm.
When I first started doing this, I was literally doing it manually. Things like bringing over the database, then the WordPress files, because why not? It's fun. I'm going along with the course. Let's try that. But I think the bigger the site gets, there's more chance of things not coming across, or URL mistakes.
I would recommend getting better search replace
I've heard
installed
of that from Eagle. Yeah.
as part. You don't have to keep it on your site, but if you removed something, you've got to do a quick search replace, a bunch of steps, like just search for the old URL, and see if anything comes up. And if it does, you've got to replace it with your new URL and stuff like that, just to make sure that your migration tool, did what you think it did.
Sure.
It's also it is really a good experience to do a manual migration, to see all the bits and pieces, including the database.
Yeah.
And it's good that you have that, Rich. I mean, that's great.
I actually gonna probably do more of it, honestly, just to
It's
stay
not
on top
hard.
of it.
It's just it's tedious. It's finicky. You got to hit every single step,
And then it depends on the host, because doing
Depends
that
on the
with
host.
something like SiteGround, easier. But go do that with Liquid, what's the
Yeah,
one that we're
Liquid
using?
Liquid Web. Yeah.
Liquid Web, Nexus, where
Mhm.
there's no cPanel. It's
Yeah.
everything's FTP.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Well,
So you're a fan of cPanel? A lot of the hosts are coming up with their own interface to do a lot of that stuff. And
SiteGround sort of has, they've kind of done their own thing, but it's just, I just noticed a difference, like when we did Nexus, it's like, oh, okay, this is not
they didn't do a good
familiar.
job of it.
Well,
Hmm.
it's just different. It's you got to use FTP. That's just,
Yeah. I mean, if most people are well advised to set up an FTP connection and a utility and know how to use it before you do any hardcore developing, because your site's going to go down someday and you may only be able to reach it with FTP, or
Yep.
It's just one of the tools that everyone should have. And again, it's not hard. You just have to get the right utility.
Yeah, I think I use FileZilla
A
as the
lot of people
main
use
one.
FileZilla.
Yeah, so I've gotten my head around that, when things don't work, the right connection.
Mhm.
So I kind of like that stuff. It keeps me, you know,
And to me,
you got to know it.
I was gonna say, to me, that's the great thing about this community. Everyone's sort of like it's embarrassing to say this, but I'm sort of the type that takes my car to the dealer to get an oil change. And, it seems like this community has a lot of folks that like to get under the hood, change their own oil, and know how everything works. And that's the best part of it. I mean, I like to on a lot of things, but then I like to hit the easy button sometimes. So I love to see, I love to hear what people are using in their experiences. That's pretty awesome.
Mhm.
And then, Lynn, I did have one other question. Were there any surprises or any positive or negatives that you took away from the meetup, or what would you do differently in the next one or in upcoming meetups?
Oh, on that, we did have a surprise. We had griefers, which
Two.
I guess is sort of a way to indoctrinate the very first meetup that we had.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Zoom bombers.
Yeah, well, yeah, it wasn't a big thing, but
We just we made it in a bunch of the guys that do the traveling around. We decided that if we get a bomber, we're just not going to say anything until the host changes it. So we just all everybody went dead silent, just like we
Yeah,
hoped they
yeah.
would. And then
Yep.
once they got rid of them, we went right back to the conversation. Like, we don't talk about it, because they
Yeah.
used to really disturb the meetings, right? Used to spend like 15 minutes talking about the Zoom bomber, and we'd get off track. And
Right.
we already are getting off track because everybody in there's a talker, right?
You know what? Lynn actually has a great suggestion, and Zoom should take note. I'm gonna praise you for this, Zoom. Praise you for this, Lynn. She
What's that?
said there should be a button that keeps the Zoom bomber there, but puts them behind bars. They'd be like,
oh yeah,
Or like
Maybe.
like send them
Maybe.
to the corner like a dunce cap.
Yeah,
exactly.
Give them a timeout.
Right.
with no audio, obviously.
Right.
Wouldn't that be great? I mean, that's
Like a
actually
penalty,
should be
like
a
a penalty
feature.
box, like a penalty box.
It should be a
Penalty
feature.
box, yeah.
Zoom, listen if you're
Penalty
listening,
box.
and I
I
know
do have
you
to give
are.
a thumbs up to Zoom though, because I did report the 2 bombers,
Yep.
and Zoom took the report right away. They got
Yep.
back to me like almost immediately,
Yep.
asked me more questions about it, and then I filled out their little questionnaire, and they
Yep.
got back to me immediately after that, telling me how the safety of their
Right.
product is very important to them, and if
Didn't they offer to
they
prosecute?
said that if we wanted to prosecute, it would be
Oh.
there every step of the way. I'm like,
Wow.
no, we're not really going to do that for this.
Wow.
But
I've never
to
seen
know
that.
that they are.
I didn't know they went
Yeah.
that far. Okay.
Well, the guy
Yeah,
was
they-
shirtless. That was the most offensive part.
That was
just,
offensive.
Yeah, and he was
can't
screaming
unsee
all
that
the
stuff, man.
obscenities. I mean, like all the just standard, and we did. I mean, they did great. Like I tell you, it was great meetup. It was a fantastic.
Were Larry and Lynn, were you able to go into the back end of Meetup and report them also, or
Yeah,
like, did they register for the
Not the
meetup?
Meetup,
That's
too.
probably another
During
way
the
to
meeting.
Well, I
do it
think
too.
it was. I mean, I don't know if it was through the back end, but when I got the little pop up to throw them out, they did have a button to report it, which I did, and then they got back to
It's
me.
called remove.
Oh,
You
no.
choose
Oh,
to
no.
remove.
No, I don't mean through Zoom. I mean Meetup. Because they had to get the link from
We
somewhere.
don't
If
know
they
who
re-
they were. We don't know which
Oh,
persons
I
they
don't, I
were.
don't, I didn't do that.
Oh, okay. Because
We
I was
don't
gonna
know
say
if they
if
were new
okay.
members or
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
We didn't.
But hey,
None of us
Steve,
had time
we
to
were
pers-
able to run it really well because of people like you, man, and like everything we've learned from everybody coming to these meetups for a good length of time now. So thank you.
Yeah.
Well, you could see it, like everybody wants to help. All the all the various Meetup folks.
Mhm.
It's sort of a family. So again, that's another great thing about the West Coast.
Yeah.
And that sort of leads me into my next thing. I know, Steve, you're heading up to Portland. When you heading up, and what are you looking forward to for
I
WordCamp
leave.
US?
I leave on a Tuesday. I'll be there at like 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm usually the hallway track, but I mean, I probably will go to a few meetings this time. But I'm hoping to meet some guys from some new cats that I just met this year. Mark Szymanski from outside of Pittsburgh, and Brennan from down in San Diego. They're both going to be there, and
Oh, awesome.
and they've taken to the YouTube track of things, and they're all over YouTube, and they work with what's his name, Bricks, what's his name, the guy that developed Bricks. I can't, for the love of me right now, I can't remember his name. Anyway, too early in the morning, I guess. But anyway, they work on his team, and I want to chit chat with them about a few things, and just catch up to them, because I talk to them a couple times a week, and again, we don't know each other outside of Zoom, and they're younger guys, so it'll be fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Is anyone else going that's in attendance today? Unfortunately, I'm not going because part of what I've been doing lately, I've been shifting to speaking more. I'm going to speak at WordCamp Costa Rica in October.
Oh, wow.
So I had to save my pennies.
You get to speak in English, or you get to speak in Spanish, or what do you?
Well, you know what? I know a lot of the folks, and we've had Marco from Green Geeks come in and present a topic, and Philip. A couple of folks that are on that team are the organizers down in Costa Rica, and they've been inviting me to come down forever.
Oh,
and that when I was accepted, I was like, I just want to make sure I don't want to take a spot from somebody in the local community, et cetera, et cetera. And they're like, no, it's English and Spanish. I know like Nathan Ingram is presented, Ida Jackson's presented, although she speaks both languages. So it's not going to be an issue that I'm speaking in English. But what I'm going to do, it's sort of like when we do, and this is all inspired by the great work that Sumner has done, is it's awesome to provide transcripts or live captioning. I'm going to provide my slides in Spanish as well as in English.
awesome.
Like I said, I'm really looking forward to it. Like WordCamp Asia was an incredible experience, and seeing how they do events in other cultures or other places is awesome. Because I've done the Santa Clarita, and then I've done it at US level, and I was surprised at some of the choices that were made at the national level. So it's always good to see how other people do things, so again, that I could do them better if we ever do another WordCamp here.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to do that. So all right.
Where in Asia was Asia? I mean,
it was in Taiwan, and I think I think they're this year it's going to be in the Philippines, in Manila, and they're actually still looking for speakers. So if anyone's interested in going, again, I was fortunate to go. I was sponsored by one of the folks that I know at WordCamp US. They had sponsorships for persons of color, women, and they paid for travel expenses for some of the speakers. So I was fortunate enough to get sponsorship there, and I'm an ambassador for SiteGround too. So that made it more possible. But again, it's just, doing these kind of meetups and helping people is what we all like to do. So this is an extension of that. So
WordCamp Asia is next February, looks like.
Yeah. They
Okay.
do it early spring.
Manila.
I know for Taiwan, it was like 2 weeks before the hottest period of the year. So I guess the reason they do it at that time of year is it's the most doable in terms of the temperatures and stuff like that. So we'll see. I think Manila is way further south, so that may be an issue.
It's very steamy there. That's very
Yeah, it's real steamy in the Philippines all the time.
yeah.
except
So,
in the mountains.
yeah.
They should have it in the mountains.
All righty. And by the way, I'm going to present the topic that I shared with you guys about. It's going to be the case study on going from a page builder to blocks and building the source. So
Oh, wow.
yeah. So it's going to reinforce what I'm trying to learn. So all right. So if there aren't any other comments or questions, again, thanks everybody for coming. Thanks everybody for participating. Again, these are smaller topics, but again, as usual, you guys brought so much great information to the table. And we'll see you next time.
Save a check, guys.
Thank
Get
you.
the 3 dots and save a
Thanks
check.
so much, Joe.
And
It all
then
starts
Thanks,
with you.
Joe.
Thank you.
It
and then I'm
starts
going to
with you,
put,
Joe.
and then I'll
Miss
put
you,
the, a lot of pointing. It's a lot of finger guns. I'll put up the recording as well on the website. So I look forward to seeing you guys in 2 weeks where we're talking about Playground.
Sounds
All right,
good. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks,
See you
Joe.
folks.
See you all later.
Bye.
Take care.